We're
Greetings,
live.
travelers. We're back.
Yes. No, it's
So-
adventures.
Well,
Adventures.
greeting adventurers. Yes, yes. Greetings, adventurers. Yes. So we are back. We're here, but should we be? That's the question. So,
I would like to say yes. I would like to say yes.
yes. And I, as always, am your eclectic host, author Mark Muncy of the Eerie, Florida book series and Eerie, Appalachia, amongst others. So yes, I do know how to use other adjectives because I also have Freaky Florida and Creepy Florida. So, and
We're gonna come up with a sum up way now that you're Eerie Appalachia too. You can't just say Eerie Florida because
that's why we say Eerie Travels now, but and then we're Eerie Adventure now.
We are Eerie Adventure, which is part of Eerie Travels, which is part of Eerie Florida. It's a landslide of Eerie.
It has been snowballing for years, and not to be confused with Cocaine Bear snowballing, but from our last episode, but we're building into this landslide of craziness and high strangeness, and it is a joy. It is a joy to dive into these things with my amazing co-host, the lovely
Erika. I like that you say lovely. We're going to come up with some new adjectives for this too. Adverbs. No, that's not correct. I know English. I am Erika Lance. I am also an author of horror stories that don't have happy endings. Super proud of that. And I'm also the host of the Drinking with Authors podcast, along with this podcast. So Mark co-hosts with me there if you ever want to, listen to me talk for hours with alcohol. Yes.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah. It's pretty fun. I'm usually the designated driver on that one because I can't have all the fun alcoholic stuff because of my epilepsy meds. So it's pretty
fun. It's okay. I think the epilepsy meds might be more cool than the alcohol, depending on
the day. Yeah, depending on the day. Yeah, definitely. So, but oh my gosh. So since the last time we spoke, we've gone down.
Wait! You keep forgetting. This is episode 2, and you have to introduce our amazing producer, Callie, because they are what creates how we do what we do.
Yes, they do all the work behind. They don't matter. They do all the stuff behind the scenes. Don't you understand?
They kind of matter. Like we kind of won't have a podcast. So to Callie,
suddenly if I start the then we know Callie's been involved. So the great Callista Muncy, the power behind the scenes, pushing all the buttons, pulling all the levers, making the internet go.
Yes. We cannot survive without them. And
yes. Okay,
now there's breaking news. What is this breaking news?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So this is going to happen occasionally on the podcast. This is episode 2, and we have something major hit the news literally as we went to press. That had to be brought up. So this wonderful company is doing 3D printer, they were doing like a show of 3D printed things and trying to show the latest things in 3D printing. And Cinratech is the name of the company. And they hosted this, let's figure these things out. And so this wonderful German designer and architect, his name's Stefan Heinrich, a perfect German name. He decides to create a fully 3D printed shoe, and you can buy the pattern for this shoe. And now, what is this shoe, right? Well,
I was going to say, why? I mean, it's badass that there's a 3D printed shoe, because most of what I've seen is printed with resin or plastic, so not a shoe-like material. But I'm assuming if you're bringing it up, it has more to do with something creepy.
It's a little weird, and the name of it is what drew me to this news, because as it came out, it is made with the Cinratech flexible TPE material, which is the new 3D printed material they're using. They've used it a lot for artificial limbs and stuff like that, because it's it's a lot better than resin and all the other stuff that 3D printers normally do. But the plus thing is the shoe, he's named it after cryptids, which are near and dear to my heart, as you know.
Ooh,
so it is called the Cryptide. And it is an open design sole that you pretty much just want to wear a sock with it. You don't really want to wear like a heavy shoe with this. But it's basically a sneaker bottom, right? And it kind of goes over the toe. And what it does is it lets you leave footprints like a Bigfoot.
Oh my God, we need these shoes now.
Yes.
We need a listener with a 3D printer that will do this to buy this and make us shoes.
Yes, and it sounds silly. You know, people think of 3D printed things, and you know they keep getting more and more advanced every day. This is just such a cool material, and it varies the thickness in places so that it curves and it bends. It's very ergonomic looking. It looks comfortable as heck. There is a video on YouTube, and we will link that in the show notes. You'll be able to find that at eerieadventure.com. But you'll also be able to see the picture of this thing. This thing is crazy, and I recommend everybody in the future will be wearing this. I just know it.
I think that we need them desperately. So if you are a listener and you have a 3D printer that will allow this, reach out to us, because I think every place we go to explore, we need to be wearing these shoes just to completely fuck up the entire system there. Like,
as a man who goes out with Bigfoot hunting teams and UFO hunting teams and all that, I can see where this is going to screw some things up eventually. One of the most recent things we did while we were up north was there were some animal attacks, and I went out to this rural area of Ohio where 2 dogs have been killed, and then about a week later, a horse was killed in its barn, and the headline said, "Non-human creature kills horse." So I'm like, oh, I have to go see this. When the sheriff says non-human creature, what the heck? And when we got out there,
let me just clarify: any non-human creature is like an animal.
Animal, exactly. But the headlines read like that. You can't; those stand out to me, of course.
Of course.
As the Eerie Appalachia guy, I start getting all those fun headlines. Did you know about this one, Mark? Yes, I did. But I went out there to talk to the families and to see some things. And we went out there and there was a Bigfoot hunting team that went out.
Okay.
And they found some tracks. And one of them looked very, very weird. And what it was, though, after casting it, we were able to figure it out. Now, if someone looking at it on the ground would go, "Oh, Bigfoot." But what it really was a double bear track, where a bear stepped in its own track, and it kind of made this double footprint. So it looks like a giant footprint, but it's just a double bear. And when you cast it, you can actually see the details where the first paw is on top of the second. So that's what
Are
gets a
you
lot
sure
of
they're
people.
not 2 bears and they walk single file to hide their numbers?
That it could be possible.
My Star Wars reference of this show.
That works. The force is strong with you. But we what's funny is a lot of the Bigfoot prints back in the day, back in the Pacific Northwest, when Bigfoot was, before it it popped again, with the Patterson-Gimlin film, and then of course In Search of and all that. Back in the day, there was a man on his deathbed said that he started it all. Was that he had followed the wild man stories growing up with them, because it was basically native lore up there, just part of their native traditions. And he decided to make a shoe that would leave these giant monster prints. And he, on his deathbed, said that he had done it all over up near Oregon and Washington State. And the scientists, were studying these. It was like, no human could leave these footprints. What he had done was he had put them on backwards. So when you would walk heel to toe, the footprint would look a little different. So the pressure was more on the toe, so it looked really weird on those footprints, the way he wore them. So most people would think he'd wear the footprint like the big footprint, like these shoes. But that was one of the things that when people went, oh, wait a minute, this guy might be onto something, because, that was, some of those footprints were very hard to describe. So, now the problem is that muddies the water. Were these big footprints, what about the real ones? Or what about the ones that people have studied? Are there more hoaxers like him? And that's, and that throws the whole, why it's still pseudoscience and not science, and
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, there's probably hoaxers and stuff like that, and we'll talk about those on other episodes and stuff like that. But I think that, there's also some legitimate documentation, for lack of a
Yes.
better way of putting it, that says there is something
Yeah.
out there of this similar ilk. I mean, there between the sightings and coming across different furs and things like that. I think it's interesting. And the Bigfoot has been talked about, and we're not even, this is not a Bigfoot
Yeah, this
episode.
isn't even a Bigfoot episode. Yeah, this is
No, but and
you
so
brought
I'm
it
going to
up.
sum
Sorry,
up with
gang.
saying Bigfoot has been talked about since before that person probably
Oh
existed.
yeah, no, 100%. And then
So
Patterson
I'm
Gimlin film.
gonna say that he did not help.
No, he certainly didn't. He muddied the waters, which they're always muddy when you go into these things, just like ghosts, just like the hoaxers, all that. So yeah, it's crazy. So anyway, those will be discussed in future days. We'll be talking hoaxers, we'll be talking the real stuff. We have plenty of skunk ape and Bigfoot footage to discuss. But that is for another day.
Yes,
So,
yes.
now this year was my first time in 20 years going to Dragon Con.
Okay. Wow. Yes,
Yeah.
I've been many times. I love Dragon Con.
You love Dragon Con. We love Dragon Con, right?
We love Dragon Con.
So I'm going to take you back in time to
Okay.
Dragon Con 2010.
Okay.
Okay. And there is this wonderful writer in Dragon Con 2010. And she is there and she hears the news about Nelson Mandela's death. And
Wait a minute. How far back in time are we going?
2010.
Okay.
But she had heard this, his death was, hold on, we will pull up our notes here, right? Because we got to Wikipedia this. So when did he die? Do you have the notes?
Oh, I'm gonna look. I'm looking. He died. Let's see. Hold on. Nope. Faith. Nelson. Oh God.
Sally, you're gonna earn your money on this one because we gotta.
Okay, December 5th, 2013 is actually when he died.
2013, right? Yep. So 2013, 2010, she sees this notice that he's gonna be speaking at this thing. And she was convinced he had died in 1999 in prison. And she recalls that there were all these funerals for him, and this big his widow had given this big impassioned speech, and all this other stuff about him, and how the world leaders came to his funeral, and all this amazing things. And now, so she's convinced, this, I saw this. How can he be speaking? How can he still be doing this stuff? And so she begins to talk to other people there at a panel saying, does anybody else remember this? Because I saw he's going to be talking. And they're all like, no, this, he's still alive. But then there were some people like, oh yeah, I remember that. I remember this, his death. So this became the discussion of what would become known as the Mandela Effect, where people remember certain things happening that didn't happen, that remember certain things being a certain way. And it's kind of this all-encompassing umbrella of strange and unusual, where we thought something happened and it didn't. And we thought something weird went a different way. It was most recently with the death of Pele, which just happened. And, early in 2023. And some people were convinced he died 10 years ago and remembered his funeral. But no, he had his nationwide funeral, early this year. So what is the
Well, you know, it's interesting because they call it the Mandela effect, right? But it's something that's also like in the past kind of been called the like a false memory
Right,
of things,
100%.
right? Because but what's interesting is when you get a group of people that has a false memory. So
Right.
like one of the reasons, believe it or not, eyewitness quote unquote testimony is, and here's Erika going down the crime route, but
Yes.
eyewitness testimony sometimes is not used when there's more than one person, because people, and they've done like all these experiments on this kind of thing, will remember different things. Every person's perspective can be ridiculously different on things. And like there was what one of the Mandela effects, like the biggest one known is like the Berenstain Bears, right?
Yes.
Right.
Right.
So and it's whether or not it was Bernstein or with
Berenstain or Berenstain. Yeah, because it's Berenstain Bears, but people remember it as Berenstain Bears. And people thought, oh, it was changed because of implications of a religious background. So it was changed to be, the people who made it weren't the Berenstains. Yeah, or it weren't the Berensteins, it became the Berenstains. And of course, no, it was always the Berenstains. And but people remember 100% it was Berenstain, and that that you're wrong. It's you've got to be wrong. And what led me down this bunny trail was one of my past lives, as a before my author days, not a past life, but my previous jobs. One of my jobs right out of high school was I was a projectionist at the Mustang Drive-In in St. Petersburg, Florida, or Pinellas Park, Florida. And it was
that is or is not there anymore.
It is not there anymore. It became the Mustang Flea Market before it died completely, and now it is a Costco. It's or Sam's Club.
I miss drive-in movie theaters. I'm just gonna say that. But
yeah, I loved it. Yeah, and I took the job because they were going out of under and they needed a projectionist. I wanted to learn how to be a projectionist. I thought it would be this great job. Now the plus side is to this thing was when it was dying, they said show whatever you want, because they didn't care. They were making money at the flea market during the day, so they didn't need a project. They didn't need the money from the theater, so I could order whatever movies I wanted. And because drive-ins were dying, this was before digital. This was back in the big reel-to-reel gang. I could order whatever was available.
You just said words that nobody's going to understand what the hell they are.
Exactly. So what year was this? It was 1988 and 89.
So that's before DVDs, children who are listening.
Before DVDs, VHS was the height, and digital movies were not a thing yet. Laserdisc was still kind of something only rich people had. So I would get these big reel, and the nice thing was the drive-ins were dying. I mean, they're still dying. I mean, there's still a few around, but they, and as Joe Bob Briggs will say, the drive-in will never die. But they're pretty much gone. But the classics are few and far between. They're nostalgia factor now. But I could get these big reels from a catalog, and it was other drive-ins saying, look, I'll trade you for this, and trade you this for this. This is pre-internet. So we're doing this over in this one magazine, and we're all calling each other saying, hey, I've got this movie and I want this one. And so I'd trade to try to make these perfect double features. And there was a guy getting rid of all the James Bond movies. And I'm like, I want to show all the James Bonds I can. Now, a lot of them were no longer available, but it was mostly Roger Moore era stuff at this time. And I was able to grab a hold of the classic Moonraker. And I teamed it up with Spy Who Loved Me, because, hey, I'm going to do Jaws, but not Jaws, because there was a villain in these movies. One of the henchmen that tried to kill Bond was a guy named Jaws. He was Richard Keel played him, who was probably one of the nicest guys ever. Went on to become a preacher, but he was like 6 foot giant. He was like almost 7 foot tall. Hands as big as my head, but then the villain he played had a mouthful of teeth, of metal teeth, And that was his trademark killing people, was biting them like a vampire and ripping their throat out with these metal teeth. And Richard Kiel had played a lot of monsters in like the old Kolchak movies in the 70s. He was a backup for Lurch back in the day. He'd done a lot of stuff. Most people remember him from the Twilight Zone episode To Serve Man. He was the alien in that. So with the big head, it's a cookbook. It's a cookbook.
I love that some of our listening audience is going to be like, oh yeah, I remember that. But a lot of it's going to be like, what in the actual fuck is he talking about?
What is okay. Mark is old. Mark is old.
That's fine. We'll tag things in show notes. Okay, so you're playing Moonraker.
So I played, Spy Who Loved Me. The cool thing is he's a villain in that. And he's like impervious. He's like the Terminator. He can't be killed. He survives all these crazy things. So he's like the one Bond villain, henchman, that doesn't die.
Okay.
So
it's rare.
So then years later, they're doing Moonraker, which is about a space shuttle being stolen, and they're going to repopulate. They're going to poison the Earth with this deadly orchid from these space shuttles dropping bombs. It was James Bond needed to do Star Wars, so they tried to make a space James Bond. But the cool thing about this movie was Jaws comes back because the bad guy needs to hire somebody to kill James Bond. And the joke is it's Jaws who's back.
The joke is, why hire somebody who failed the first time? But go ahead. Yeah. Bad planning on this bad guy's part. That's not the point of this episode. Continue on.
But anyway, so here's the plot of Moonraker there. But anyway, so Jaws comes back and he's trying to kill Bond. And it's this very elaborate chase scene. And he's got tons of bad guys driving the car, and Jaws is firing guns at him. And of course, the car crashes off of the side of a Swiss mountain and falls into a Swiss chateau, and it's this terrible crash. And then Jaws walks away, just dusts himself off. And then a little bit later, Jaws is trying to kill him again, and they're on a cable car type thing, and he bites the cable. He's using his steel teeth to bite the cable to send the cable car crashing down. But again, Jaws gets outwitted by the hero, and the cable car comes crashing down with him in it, and it smashes into another building, and Jaws is climbing out of the wreckage, again, unharmed because he's Jaws. But what helps him out of the wreckage is this little girl named Dolly. And she's not a little girl, young lady. She has some nice décolletage. She's showing a lot of curves here, gang. A lot of cleavage. But she's this little blonde.
Okay, so she's not a girl. Let's not use the term girl. She is a
young lady. And she's got little pigtails, and she's got cute glasses, and she helps Jaws out of the wreckage.
Okay.
And as she helps him out of the wreckage, he looks at her, and she smiles at him, and she's got braces. And then he smiles back with his metal teeth. And immediately the music from Romeo and Juliet, Tchaikovsky's Romeo and Juliet, comes out.
Crescendos, and they're in love.
And they are in love. So,
okay, yeah, I feel like there's a but, though.
All right. So the but is, okay, so they fall in love because she's got braces and he's got the metal teeth. They hold hands and they skip away together. It's adorable. And a little bit later, we're now up on the space station, as Bond had to smuggle himself aboard one of the stolen space shuttles. And up on the space station, Jaws is up there with his new girlfriend, and she's in one of the space suits because she's been brought into the group. But Bond is like realizing, that this guy, he's wanting to he's got all these beautiful people up on the space station with him, right? They are the most beautiful. So it's genetically perfect people. He's wanting to make a new master race on Earth after he poisons the Earth. And so all these people are going to be, the Adam and Eves of the new world.
Okay.
And Bond talks to the villain, and he goes to the villain. He says, "Hey, we need to, I understand you're doing this, but I assume any genetic deformities would be weeded out." And he kind of looks over at Dolly, Jaws' new little girlfriend, and he looks at Jaws, who is 7 foot tall craziness, and And so Bond turns Jaws into an ally. And
Okay.
Jaws does the Darth Vader Emperor thing. Spoiler alert for a 50-year-old, 40-year-old James Bond movie. And he decides to turn the tide and save the day. And at the end, as the space station's blowing up, Bond escapes in the last space shuttle with his love interest, and Jaws and Dolly sit there on the exploding space station with some champagne. And Jaws says his only line in 2 movies, "Here's to us," and they drink the champagne as the space station explodes.
What does this have to do with the Mandela Effect?
Now we're into Mandela Effect. Ready?
I was like, we just recapped James Bond, a movie that's
for
been
20
recapped
minutes.
50 times. Okay.
20 minutes of James Bond, Jaws the story. So because years later, I'm watching James Bond on a streaming service just recently for Christmas. And I'm watching James Bond Marathon, because you watch James Bond Marathons on Christmas. It's a holiday thing. And
okay, I believe you, but I don't think that's true. But continue on. Yes.
Moonraker comes on, and I'm all excited because, hey, we've got Dolly's braces coming up. Dolly, Jaws crashes. She comes out of the wreckage. He comes out of the wreckage. She smiles at him with her perfect white teeth.
But you said she had braces before.
She does not have braces. And I'm like, what Steven Spielberg editing hell is this, where they took away the guns and put in walkie-talkies for the FBI guys in ET? They've taken away Dolly's braces. And I'm like, I have to write an angry letter to MGM Studios,
because those go well. Yes.
And I'm like, you need to restore this, because I watched it dozens of times as a projectionist, and I always watch that scene. Well, guess what?
What?
She never had braces.
I'm not surprised by that. So is this like a thing everybody thought, like the love interest between them was because she had metal on her mouth and
that was the whole point of their relationship. The big joke.
Obviously not, though. So how is it that you think everybody got that wrong?
That's where I was like, that's when I start digging, figuring out which edition did they edit out her braces. And that's when I discovered this is a Mandela effect. A lot of people remember her with braces, and a lot of people don't.
Wow. That's
so
interesting, though.
Yep. So I had to dig up the original VHS copy I had, because I'm like, well, this is before they did any special editions. There's no remastering here. She's got perfect teeth.
Well, have you been able to go back and watch a reel-to-reel since you looked at this?
No, that's what I'm trying to get a hold of. I want to find somebody who still has a reel-to-reel master of that to see if we can do it. And I'm still reaching out to people about that. I'm trying to find a collector.
Well, if you have a reel-to-reel, you can reach out to us.
Please reach out to us.
But yeah. I think that's fascinating, though, because, it goes to the whole thing of how much do we insert into what we're looking at? Like, how much does our history or what we want to see feed into what we see, right?
Yep.
Because I don't remember that one. My favorite Bond is actually Octopussy. I'm throwing that out there.
That's a good one too. Hey, that one's fun because you couldn't tell if they were trying to figure out if it was a comedy or a straight action movie, because that's got some of the darkest stuff in any Roger Moore. And then he's dressed as a clown, and then no,
I agree 1,000%. But it's interesting because otherwise, if you take that away, and I know we have to go to a break in a second here, but if you take that part away, you take her braces away, you kind of go, why in the crap did that happen?
It doesn't make sense. As he falls in love with her because she helped him out of the wreckage, or he falls in love with her because she's, got some, some curves. It's
he could, but I'm talking about her thing.
Why would she like him?
Him falling in love if she's a buxom beauty. I get it. It's entirely possible. But the flip side is, why the hell would she be interested in him?
And there's commercials later reenacting that scene where he does a plane commercial where he goes up to a ticket counter to get a flight somewhere, and the girl smiles at him and she's got braces and he smiles back. It's just this crazy European airline commercial. Why would they have done that if that wasn't the original joke?
That's fascinating. But
And the big thing is on the James Bond like wiki, that MGM Studios has their list of characters and stuff. They talk about Dolly's braces.
wow.
And now the actress herself said she never wore braces, but we will get into all this. And so now the theories come out. So we'll do that after the break though.
Okay, well, we'll be right back then with braces.
Yes. So some shameless commercial plugging. Here we go, gang. Let's buy their stuff.
Buy stuff.